welcome back. This is Mary from Around the Craft Room. Well, I've had some people ask me to show them how I make my fairy journals. I have a couple of fairy journals that I've made here, and what I really like about them is the way they look on the shelf. I think they're really cute. I usually don't put them side by side. I usually put another journal between them, so that kind of makes them look cute on the shelf. They're just decorative. The sticks, of course, are just decorative. But what I also like is that even though they have the sticks on them, that when you open them up, they lay flat. Another thing I like is that they are a soft cover journal like this. And I've made them in different sizes. These two actually are different sizes. And so you can make them in any size you like. So I'll start showing you how to make a fairy journal. So, of course, one of the first things you need is some fairy pictures. So you can go on to Etsy and find some. There's some free ones out there if you search for fairy journals. I've picked up these. I believe these came from Temu, which was in a set of pictures. I don't have most of them now because obviously I've used most of them. Okay, the ones you get from Temu come 2 on a card. And the cards are like, I think about 5 by 8 or 5.5 by 8 or something like that. Anyway, so there's one. This is a card. So there would be one and there would be one. I'll show you these I got from Temu. These are a little bit different. I've used all the fairies from that package mostly. So this one is more of a woodland fairy pictures. They have more woodland characters in it and things like that. I like these. And they're really a nice weight of paper too. I like the weight of paper you get. And then this one is mostly just forest pictures. They have some really cute pictures on Temu that I like. Anyway, but you can also, like I said, you can get them from Etsy. You can get some freebies out there if you just look for freebies on fairies. I've taken these and just taken them to Office Depot and had them printed, and they did a really good job of printing these. I think they did a really pretty job. And then I've cut them apart, which I have a lot that I've cut apart, and then just, they're different. I made them different sizes on my computer, but you can make them all the same size, whatever, you know, you want to do. So that's my fairies that I'm going to be working with. And then the next thing you need is filling or whatever you're putting in the cover. I use repackaged Amazon packages. That's what I use in mine. So you'll need 4 of these cut, 2 for the front, 2 for the back. I like to make them, you know, thick enough. You could make them thinner if you wanted, but I like the double thickness of them. And so that's what we're going to need for that. And let me move some of this stuff, and then we'll get started making a cover. Okay, we have our pieces cut, and you just determine the size journal you want to make. Let me see. This one looks like it's going to be about 5.5 by 8. Yeah, so that's what this one's going to be. Again, just whatever size you want to make. If you want to make it smaller or whatever. So for the outside, for the cover, you need some fabric. And I found this fabric, which I think is going to be really cute. And so I bought this. And what you're going to need is a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, or cut your pieces a little bit bigger than the journal, which I like to have enough to fold up. So I probably cut mine, you know, like 1.5 inches longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip that right there. And then I'm just going to tear this piece of fabric off. And yeah, that's going to be a lot more than I need, but that's fine. So there we go. So what I need is, of course, for the front and the back. So you're going to need a pretty good size piece, which is going to be a couple of inches bigger than your inside of your books anyway. So let's see. So we're going to need that. And then I'm going to tear this selvage off because I don't really want the selvage. I want it to be softer looking. So I'm just going to rip that selvage off. And then we need to cover our book. So we need that much and then fold it again. So I need about, I'd say some, you know, fold it over a pretty good size piece. So about like this. And then just tear that off. And I want all this torn because I like the raw edges looking, and I like to fray it all out. So that's why I like it torn, the torn look. And then I'll just take and fray it all out. That'll take a little while to do it because you have to sit here and pull all the threads out to make it look good. So, okay. So once you get that done and determine what size you want, if you want the fabric to come all the way to the edge, or you want to move it in like this and have the fabric come like that. That's the way I usually like them. Again, I'm just going to have to fray all this out, which will take, like I said, some time to do all your, pulling all your strings out, making it look all frayed like that. And then after I get that done, I'm going to lay it down on just a piece of scrap paper and take and ink around it. I usually like this brush, but you can use a dauber or whatever you have. This is just what I have. And then I'll just go around and do this all around the whole thing. So let me get that done and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have frayed out all around the edges of all of it, and then I've gone around and inked it. So this is what it looks like, but I've also sewn a decorative stitch down one side. So this is going to be the front of the journal. So we're going to put it on here like this, and we're just going to cover this up and figure out where we want to put this. So I'm going to have this on the side, kind of like this. So the next thing I need to do is figure out where the image I want to put on the front. And so I've chose this girl, or this fairy. I thought she was kind of cute. So I'm going to put her here, but I'm going to put her up a little bit further. Now this is the top, which I'm going to have to fold down, but I'm going to move her, figure out where I want to put her, and see if I need to trim her up a little bit or anything. And then I'm going to figure out where I want to put her, because I'm going to put some lace down here, and then this will turn down, so probably about like that. So I'm just going to take and try to pin her on there. I don't like to put a lot of glue on my journal because I'm going to be doing a lot of sewing, but I'm not going to obviously be sewing right in the middle of her. So I'm going to put some glue here just to hold her on until I get her sewn on. So I don't want to put it all the way up to the edges. Again, I don't like glue in my sewing machine. So I'm just going to glue the center of her and then try to put her on here just enough that she's going to stay until I get her sewn down. And then I'm going to take her back to the sewing machine. Oh, I need to ink around her first. Oh, goodness. Hang on. See if I can get that done. All right. Let's just put a little bit of ink around her. That's why I got that. That's why I had that paper still laying there. I forgot. So, oh, I had her sticking down there. It's okay. That's just scrap paper. So, looks like I need to trim off the bottom a little bit. It's got some white edges on it. There we go. Okay, now we can put her on there and figure out where we want her to be. Okay. All right, back to figuring out where she wants to be. So we're going to put her up here about like this. Then I'm going to take her to the sewing machine, and she's just stuck just barely. And I'm just going to sew around her, again, using probably the same decorative stitch I did on this. and then we'll be right back. Okay, I moved her over a little bit and up a little bit. I think maybe she should have been up even further, but that will be all right. Then I just glued these pieces together in the middle. I didn't put a lot of glue around the edges because, again, I'm going to be sewing and I don't want glue in my sewing machine. So I'm going to put this up here and then fold over and see where we want to put her. Let's see, we need it a little bit more. Kind of just determine where we want this to be. And so that looks pretty good. And then I have these clips again from Temu. I have some of these little clips, and I'm just going to, I like the way they're flat on the bottom, so they just lay flat, and then you just snap them in like that. So I'm just going to pin them on here, and again, determine where we want to put her, about like this. I'm just going to snap them all on here. And then here's where we're going to have to trim. So I'm going to trim the back. I'm just going to snip. I'm just going to snip this on the sides down to where the book is there. And now this will get folded in here. So again, I'm just take the top ones off so I can see where this works. And then I'm going to fold these in and glue them down. Just lightly glue them. I don't, like with my scrap paper, I don't want to put a lot of glue because, again, I don't want a lot of glue in my sewing machine. But we're just going to lightly glue these down and fold that in to the back side. Oh, okay. So this should have been, this is going to be a little too tall, but that's okay. What we're going to do is I will just trim it up and then fray it out. So that's okay. And then I will just take and trim that off and then fray it out again, because I would have normally put her up closer to the top, but I've already got her sewn on. So this is what we're going to do. So I'm just going to close that in like that, and then I'm going to trim off what I want to trim off, the size, and then fray it out again. I know that's going back and forth from what I'm working on, but this is going to work fine. And then I'm just going to fray this out and ink it up again. And that will be the top of it. You may be thinking that, Mary, that's a lot of work doing all that extra fraying out, but really it just takes moments. You just take I use my seam ripper, but you can use a sharp pair of scissors or whatever, and you can just pull up the threads like this and they'll pull right out. And then again, another inking around this, and then doing the same thing on the bottom. It looks like I've got too much fabric here, but that's okay. So the same thing on the bottom, which I need another clip on there. Clip that down. And then take for each side and go up to the book like this. And then I'm going to go back in, open that up, and glue this down. Just add a little bit of glue here. I use the stick glue, it's easy. And they have some in the fabric department that it's not supposed to mess up your sewing machine, so I don't know what that is. I need to get some. But anyway, tuck that in like that. And then we'll trim off the bottom where we want it, and then fray it out, ink it, and then we'll get ready. And then just, I'll probably do like a straight stitch around, all the way around it to hold it down. Okay, before I stitched this all down and did all that, I also went in there and glued this part down because I didn't really stitch this down to anything. So I went ahead and glued that down there and then stitch this all down. Now the only thing left to do is to do some decorative lace or trim or whatever across the bottom. This book is a little bit bigger than the ones I normally make, looks like, so I've got more room down here. But I have this piece of lace, again, from Temu. So I'm going to put this across here, but that leaves me quite a bit of space. If I put it down here, I really like it on the bottom. So I'm just going to stitch it across there, just a plain stitch. But with this space in here, so I thought I'd come back with some ribbon and just glue some ribbon in there, kind of like that. So I'm going to get that done, and then our cover will be done. I sewed a piece of trim across here, and then, of course, like I said, I had a lot of space in there. So I came back and put some ribbon on that. I just glued the ribbon down. So anyway, so that's the front of our fairy journal. And then when you do the back, you do basically the same thing as we did before. I just ended up sewing a pocket on that. Like I sewed her, I sewed a pocket on it before I sewed it together. But this is the back of it. So this is the cover of our fairy journal. And then we will probably make the inside of it in a separate video. I just wanted to show you real quick. This is a different one that I did. And this one is smaller, so I didn't have to put anything in there. So this is a different one. Again, I just put a little pocket in that one, and that's the back of it. So anyway, there's a couple of fairy journal covers, and then we will get started on making the inside. Thank you so much for watching.